Our journey this time to show you some of the world's most incredible but little known places and miracles starts on the infamous Skeleton Coast on the western side of Namibia. Oh God, and it smells! Oh God, and it smells! If you can imagine fish mixed with poop, that's what you have. And if we were to play a little game, just listen to the sound and can anyone tell me where exactly am I? Maybe a farm? Maybe a paddock with sheep? This here is Cape Cross Seal Reserve, a home to one of the world's largest gatherings of those beasts. So these are called Cape fur seals, and they are actually sea lions. And the difference is that you see the back flippers. Sea lions can use their back flippers for walking on the ground, and also they have outer ears. The sight in front of us was hard to describe in words. An average male fur seal weighs 250 kilograms, and here there was thousands.
Oh God, there's some in the walkway. How are we supposed to go to the walkway?
Oh, and perhaps I forgot to mention that they are also extremely territorial.
You're not supposed to... It's violent, babe. Don't.
In few minutes we managed to create the plan that would open a route towards the walkway. And out here we started to understand the true scale of this place. Jesus! You just hear somebody crawling under your feet. Everything happening around us was nothing short of a mayhem.
They're so scary, they're extremely territorial. And when you, and they can put their noses through this walkway, and sometimes they just come, and there's so many of them, and I'm so tiny.
The cold and rich waters of Namibia's coast create the perfect conditions for those animals. And this here is their kingdom. And just when you think that you've seen it all, you come to the other side of the walkway, tens of thousands more. This is nuts. Throughout the year, between 80 and 100,000 seals call Cape Cross home. Yet during the breeding season, these numbers can reach unfathomable 210,000.
It's crazy. There's the ground is dark from seals.
I don't know how to show you, how to portray the feeling that we're having. The smells, sounds, and pure number of them was like nothing we had ever seen before. But when it was time to leave, we ran into an old problem.
Another seal in the middle of the walkway. Joe, we have a seal situation again. This time we're on the other end of it. It's just like sleeping there.
We were trapped in, and as the park was closing, I took on the challenge. I made myself big, tried to appear fearless, and luckily, the only seals that can fit through the railings are teenagers who in size are quite similar to myself. Finally, a breakthrough. Or at least for me.
It's charging, it's gonna charge again. No. Can you open it?
But little did the seal know that now it was personal. You see, this poor guy had no idea that us men get a rush of adrenaline and testosterone when presented with a chance to protect our partner.
And riding on this rush, I stood my ground.
I'm escaping, I'm escaping, I'm escaping, I'm escaping. Bye!
We were playing a game of chicken with a seal. That was many times cooler than I could have ever expected.
That was super cool indeed.
That was so fun.
There were so many of them.
Thousands and thousands, tens of thousands.
Tens of thousands.
However, the second place on our list could not have felt more different from the first seals on Cape Cross.
I'm driving on a moon, I'm driving on a moon. On the left there's moonland and on the right there's a moonbeam.
Yes, the landscapes here were without question unearthly.
Yeah, I'm sort of feeling like we are driving into Mordor.
This one does not simply walk into Mordor.
If anyone's wondering, then yes, I forced her to watch The Lord of the Rings.
But strangely, the only reason we were here was my mom. And no, this is not the beginning to a bad action film where I have to save my mom from the Nami Desert. But instead, she's a biologist. And turns out that among plant people, it is common knowledge that out here, one of the world's most remarkable living organisms can be found.
A thing that has been living in this desert for more than 100 million years. No, that's not true.
It is true.
No, this desert is 55 million years old.
Yeah, but the plant has been living in the area for 100 million years.
As we brought the car to a stop, it at first didn't look promising at all. An endless wasteland with sand as far as you can see. Yet even here there was life.
Oh God, that's a snake.
That
That's
was
appropriate,
close.
that's a snake.
That was close.
Whoa! Ah!
Luckily we didn't bother him too much.
We'll let the little snake live its life. Live its best life. It has to be hard here, and now I will be watching where I step. I did not expect to see a snake there.
Yet only meters away from the little guy stood the things that we came here for.
And now we came to a field where there's quite a few Velvichias. They don't look appealing at all. It's like a pile of trash or something looking from afar.
To an unknowing guy, they really don't look like much. However, after a 20-minute lecture from your mom, they all of a sudden start to feel quite special.
So this guy here, it's called Velvichia, and it's one of the most unique plants in the world.
100 million years, they've just been growing and growing in the desert. There's like all the other species that were here when these plants first came around, they're all gone.
And if we translate this plant's name in the local languages, it pretty much means 2 leaves and never dies. This thing can live for thousands of years, just slowly growing here in the desert sand. And you can see that its whole life it only has 2 leaves, and then from the end it like starts to decompose.
The strange appearance of the plants has given inspiration to many stories and legends. Yet perhaps the most famous that millions of us have seen comes from George Lucas's Star Wars, where it is portrayed as Sarlacc pit.
What I find so unbelievable about these plants is that even though they're like completely disregarded all evolutionary steps for the last 100 million years, and then they're growing here where there's hardly any rain, and they seem to be thriving.
The big reason why it is so is that Velvichias are the true specialists of dry and unforgiving desert.
Catching the moisture from the air with leaves, and then below the surface it has a very intricate system of roots, just going deep, trying to get as much moisture as possible.
In all honesty, the only reason we came to this desert was to show my mom that we also cared about things that she likes. Yet after spending more than an hour walking from one pile to another,
Wow.
Look at that big boy.
it suddenly became hard to hide our excitement.
I never thought I would be so excited about the plant. A plant that looks like a pile of compost, but it sort of feels like you're watching dinosaurs. Like you're going back in time.
They truly were special, and weirdly seeing them became one of our favorite memories about Namibia.
Like, it feels a privilege to be here and to see those plants, and I can't believe that there's not like 24-hour security, like trying to keep people out, that nobody would get close to them, because they feel like the most prized possession ever.
But Namibia's uniqueness can hardly be limited to its plants and marine life. And so, as we move forward on our list, we find ourselves in a place where peasants could overnight become millionaires. A town that once was the richest place on our planet.
What the heck is this place?
It looks like a mix of American Wild West and Germany.
And if you ever plan to visit Namibia yourself, then all of the places mentioned in the video can also be found in much more detail in our travel guide that can be yours by following the link in the description of this video. And to learn the unbelievable story of this town, we left our car behind.
We've made it to the most famous ghost town of Namibia. This place is called Klemans, which means gold miner's peak. And yeah, its story is simply unbelievable. How in such a short time a place can go from truly luxurious and truly unique into this.
To utter ruins.
What surrounded us was hard to comprehend.
It's really quite strange. There's nothing around. Desert and then a town. Probably around 50 to 80 houses. And what makes it extremely crazy is that there's no water here. All the water they needed was to be brought in from Velvichia, the town next to the coast.
This place just did not make sense. And so one by one, we started going through the abandoned buildings. Some of them were hardly standing, slowly being claimed by the desert. Yet the others,
This just looks like somebody has moved out yesterday.
Holy moly, look at the floors. Perfect, it's hardwood floors.
Hardwood floors, yeah.
They've been here for 100 years. Say what you want, but Germans really know how to build houses.
This looks like original stuff, like original electricity and stuff.
but there's much more than just living quarters in Klemans.
Over there is the hospital, power station, bowling alley.
Tram system. Don't forget the tram system.
But to me, the strangest thing that shows the luxury of this town is that they had their own ice factory in the middle of the desert.
The people didn't have their own water even, and they had an ice factory. And like many things that there was nowhere else in Southern Africa, they had here in the middle of the desert where there's like hard to reach, not optimal.
But of course, there's also a good reason why this town was built. And this, Liisu is going to tell us.
Well, basically, one of the Namibia railway workers discovered that there's a shiny thing next to the railway. And he showed it to his German supervisor. And the German supervisor was like, "This is a diamond! Woo! Let's mine here." And this is how they realized that there is a huge, like a diamond reserve here.
And they say that in 1908, when the diamond rush began, men would literally lay down on the sand looking for shiny pieces. There were so many of them.
And by 1912, They had like basically built the town, started mining.
And thanks to this vast amount of money that the diamonds brought in, it was pretty much the most luxurious town in the whole of South Africa. It's still a little weird to imagine that in the evening this desert here would be filled with German polka, would be filled with jugs of beer, people dancing, singing, playing the accordion. At one point it produced 11% of world's diamonds, but how come it just disappeared?
And 1928, I think it was, they had discovered so many other diamond reserves, and they realized that it doesn't pay to be here in the middle of the desert when there is no water. You have to bring in all of the supplies. It's harsh, it's not that pleasant. And they slowly started moving out. And by 1956, it was completely abandoned.
Yeah, but the rise and fall of this town happened in 20 years.
Yeah.
1908 was the first rock, and 1928
They started going.
they moved out pretty much.
Yeah, so get rich schemes don't work.
Yeah, but the people that lived here, they were all rich. They just left their houses behind. They were like, yep.
What we saw in this town was tragic and beautiful all at once. A time capsule in barren desert, representing how fast humans are able to adapt and move on. However, the fourth miracle on our list is pretty much the opposite of Klemans, because it tells a story of someone for whom the quick changing of things might have irreversible and terrible consequences.
We have once again taken a small sidetrack, and yeah, we're hoping that it will lead to something beautiful.
For many hours, we drove on the rocky hillsides in Torra Conservancy. Yet by this time, we had gotten used to the fact that in Namibia, you have to put in effort to reach the most beautiful places.
Driving here, not easy at all. Every place we go, you have to pay a price, like hour or two on horrible roads. And then you get this beautiful view, beautiful place, sometimes an animal.
And finally, we were there.
This doesn't look possible for us.
In front of us was a dry and empty riverbed, an unusual place to call a destination. But for us, it was exactly the place we needed to be.
We are now following the riverbed of Huab River, and it's a place known for its desert elephants.
However, the chances of seeing one of those rare animals were not high, because it is estimated that there is only around 150 desert elephants left in Namibia.
There was 2 tour groups. They hadn't seen elephants.
For hours, we drove on the dry riverbed, taking note of all the signs that we could find.
Elephant poop.
But then, just as we were about to leave,
I'm ready.
We had given up. Can't believe that we found a herd of desert elephants. And together with a male, that's not that common.
in front of us was a herd of some of the world's rarest elephants. But what makes those animals so special has nothing to do with their appearance. In this regard, they are not different from their relatives who live on grasslands and forests. But instead, it has to do with their intelligence.
These are the desert elephants. They're smart, resilient.
From standing up on two legs in search of food, to being able to remember every waterhole on a territory that in size is similar to a small country.
If they need water, they will dig up a little bit of it and let the water sink up. They have learned and mastered this environment.
The skills and knowledge that is passed from one generation to another are unmatched by any other large animal on Earth.
And they're just throwing the dust onto themselves. It works like sunscreen.
But with a vast amount of information, also the risk increases. There are reported cases where whole herds have perished after losing their matriarch before she could pass on her skills. And due to this very same reason, desert elephants are extremely sensitive to poaching and changing weather conditions. It has most probably taken them thousands of years to fully get used to this rough environment. But once their knowledge is lost, it is likely that never again will we see elephants like this in deserts. After spending weeks in the country, it became clear that Namibia is a place like we have never seen before. It's a country of stunning landscapes and beautiful nature, a sanctuary to ancient cultures, and a perfect place to create memories that you will never forget. I really do hope that one day you will have the chance to see Namibia with your own eyes. And remember, to make planning this journey easier, make sure to check out the travel guide in the description below. Friends, thank you for watching. Take care and bye.